times. I wanted to just let you know a little bit about how today's going to go. We're going to have what you can expect. You're going to get to know who I am a little bit. You're going to get to do a meditation. We're going to arrive here together, and then we're going to go from there, okay? All right, so I'm Kitty. I'm a clinical social worker here in Texas. I run a group practice. I don't have my notes in front of me, so I'm like, what am I supposed to say? And I'm an EMDR certified therapist. I do trauma therapy as my specialization, but I also do internal family systems, which is another trauma modality. And my background is in primarily complex and relational PTSD. And so that's kind of what I do professionally. But I also have been a Gardnerian priestess for almost 20 years. Gasp is a really long time. But I have both. I straddle both worlds. I'm also a practicum instructor for UT Austin and UT Arlington, and I run a group practice in Georgetown, so just north of here. If you today have any questions, I want you to just go ahead and raise your hand. I'm going to keep us going along. We'll keep moving along. Some of this stuff is pretty deep and heavy, and usually long conversations want to happen around it, and we unfortunately don't have time for that today. But I'll keep us moving. We'll keep getting moving forward and covering all the things we need to cover. I do have a slideshow. So one thing I want y'all to know is that we have a QR code that I will have open on my computer when we're done, so you can get it, because you can't get it from the screen right now. And you can download the slides. You will get that when you fill out the Google Form through the QR code. You'll get Google Slides. You'll get a handout around trauma-informed witchcraft for a component for seekers and a component for leaders in witchcraft or coven work, things like that. And we are recording this, so it will be up on YouTube sometime this week. Can't guarantee when that'll be, but sometime this week it'll be up on YouTube. So you can also watch it again there if you'd like. You might want to re-listen to it just because we'll be doing 2 meditations today, and so you can listen to the meditations from home too over and over again if you'd like. My YouTube channel is Kitty the Fourth, so if you ever want to find that, you can find it there. All right. So what I want to start with first is just all of us kind of arriving here together. So I'm going to have you feel comfortable, just put one hand on your heart and another on your belly. It's a very vagal nerve resetting kind of a movement for us. It tells our animal brains that we're safe. So I want you to go ahead and close your eyes and soften your gaze if that feels better. There's nothing you need to do right now. Know where you need to go. Know where you need to be. I ask that you just allow your body to arrive in this moment. Notice the gentle rhythm of your breath in and out. No need to change it. Just let it be exactly what it is. And then I'm going to have you gently turn your awareness inward and down into your body. Down into the weight of your body specifically. The places where you make contact with the chair beneath you, the floor beneath your feet, and the ground beneath all of it. And as you sink into that awareness, let your body get a little heavier and settle all the way down. And here is what I want you to know before we begin for today. That every moment of your life, every joy, every grief, every time you wondered if you were going to be okay, our earth has been there. Her loving arms of gravity reaching upward, holding you close. Gravity is our Earth Mother's embrace, constant and unhurried, present in a way that no human relationship has ever imagined or managed. She is older than harm, and she was here before the first wound was ever made. Let your bones feel that gentle downward pull, the ground rising up to embrace you, the weight of your own body as evidence that you are held. This feeling is our first secure attachment and our birthright. The one that has never withdrawn, never conditioned its love, never asked us to be different than we are. So anywhere you go today, any moment you feel unmoored or uncertain or far from yourself, you can drop your awareness down to feel the ground beneath your feet and remember, she is still here and she has never stopped. So if there are parts of you today that feel uncertain about being here, parts that are scanning the room, wondering if this is safe, I want to invite those parts to borrow this for a moment. Her steadiness, her consistency, her complete and total lack of interest in whether you are doing this right. You don't have to earn your place here. You are already being held. And when you're ready, let your awareness begin to widen just a little bit, back out into the room and back into the sound of my voice. And you can return back whenever it feels right for you. Right. So I want to start by saying something that I don't know that a lot of people have thought about before, unless you're a trauma therapist maybe. But on the day that you were born, every single one of you, me, all of us, we did not believe anything bad about ourselves. We didn't think I'm unworthy, or I don't matter, or I'm shameful, I'm bad, I'm wrong. Nobody believed that. And that's going to matter here in a minute as we go through this. And I want you to remember that every trauma you have ever experienced in your life was learned. It was something done to you, and it was not whatever coping strategies or beliefs about yourself developed out of that trauma, not from anything you actually did wrong. You arrived also with a singular question. Your nervous system arrived with the question of, am I safe? Do we have a connector? Oh, I hope so. Evo.
I was pretty sure I had one in my room.
Yeah.
Looking more familiar?
Yes, yes. Person, I pulled my stuff away. Thanks so much. All right. Hopefully. We need to turn it on. Oh, allow. Hang on. It says allow. Yes. Yeah, I don't know if it's on.
I've seen the light coming out the sensors.
Power button.
Well, I go get staff.
That would be wonderful.
That I know works.
Yeah. Oh, it wasn't plugged in all the way. Like that. Oh, you're good. Look at that. All right. Yay. All right. Now, see if we can turn it the right way. Yay. I was just trying to get it turned. A little cattywampus. Yeah.
Is it PowerPoint or a Keynote or?
It's just a PDF that I'm running.
It's not visible yet.
Yeah.
Go to the Apple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go for it.
Not the tech person, but.
Source. It's HDMI, yes?
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Oh,
be showing up.
Yeah. If we go, it's on Bluetooth, it's plugged in, and I gave it permission, so.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go ahead and keep talking while they're futzing with stuff. I'll come out here with all y'all. Okay, so we are all born with this question that we're asking throughout every day of our lives. Our body is asking this question of, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? Actually, where our body, our nervous system is asking it about 4 times per second. That is how often we're checking, scanning for security, for safety, for threat, for what have you. That's how often we're doing that. And when I say safety, am I safe? That's referring to not just physical safety. Yay, here we are. Perfect, thank you so much. Yay, let's give them a round of applause. The heroes of the day. Thank you. Okay. Woo. There we go. On the day you were born, you believe nothing bad about yourself. We're going to get into why that matters as we go along, but regardless. So when we're talking about safety, we're not just talking about physical safety. We're talking about emotional, financial, spiritual, psychological, verbal, all the forms of food security and safety, right? Is my food source safe, right? Think of this question of safety from our nervous system as kind of a call and response, right? It's, am I safe? Yes, from the other person, right? It's an infant, so we're hoping their mom is supposed to give us, right? Yes, you're safe, you're safe. And over thousands of repetitions like that, allegedly, you develop secure attachment. I don't know, I haven't met anyone with secure attachment, but when I do, I'm going to examine them. So in fact, what we might call those negative beliefs, which is really at the core kernel of trauma, is those negative beliefs, is directly tied to how that question of am I safe is answered or not answered. Sometimes it's left as an open question and we're like, okay, well, can I get an answer, please? Sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes the answer is, oh my God, absolutely not, right? So just know that that's basically, I did a whole massive overview of what trauma actually is, but that's basically what's happening whenever we're going through a traumatic experience or have a traumatic childhood. So I'm going to give you a tale of 2 babies, actually, to kind of help us figure this out. Because trauma is ultimately an event that overwhelms our system and leaves behind a lasting belief about ourselves, others, and our place in the world. So I want you to imagine we have 2 babies learning to walk. And what happens when babies are learning to walk? They fall down all the time, right? Now, I don't know about you, but I've never seen a 12-month-old fall learning to walk and go, no, I'm such an idiot, right? No, babies don't do that. They don't. They're not like, oh, I can't believe I was so clumsy that I fell. So what that means is that now we go forward, right? Babies didn't believe they were dumb for falling or insignificant or didn't matter or unsafe, right? They just kept going and kept going and kept going. But eventually they fall when they're about 2 or 3, and they get a different response. And that response might be, they stumble and fall out walking with a caregiver, and they cry, and maybe our first baby has a loving, caring caregiver who picks up the baby, the toddler, and says, you're okay, it's all right, I've got you. And what does that baby learn in that moment? Well, the baby learns, if I stumble and fall, there's somebody here to help me out. If I'm crying or distressed, I can have somebody help me regulate these big, huge feelings in my body. Because to a 2-year-old, falling and hurting themselves is like huge in their experience of the world. They have this much experience, right? So to them, it might be the worst thing that's ever happened to them. They have big, big reaction. Now we have baby number 2. And this time what baby gets is, quit your crying or give you something to cry about, right? How many of us have heard that? Right. And how do you feel in that moment when you hear that? Ooh, right? I'm in trouble. I did something wrong. I can't trust anybody to be here when I stumble and fall. Maybe the stick that tripped me is dangerous, and so now who knows what, I'm going to go out in the wild and what, get tripped up? So these babies learn, it's just a quick example of how trauma works, but our first baby's question of, am I safe, was answered in the affirmative. And they learned that when they fall, someone is there. Baby number 2, the question of, am I safe, is either answered in the negative or left open, right? So it's kind of like a feedback loop. We always want the feedback loop closed. So if the question is open, then we are still seeking the answer to it. Am I safe here? Am I safe there? Am I safe there? How about over there, right? But we scan that through our whole world in every avenue of our life. So there's a couple of things to know about trauma in the brain and how it works. And that is that any event coded with negative emotion will stay active in your brain. There you go. So here we have an example of how the brain works and what trauma happens in there. And this is so blurry, y'all. I'm glad you'll be able to download it. But it stays stuck in our hippocampus. So our hippocampus is the one that's related to time stamping events. Like, so if you have a traumatic experience or something scary happened, it feels like it happened yesterday or the other day because it's still active in the brain, even if it was 20 years ago, because it's still open and it's still active because the feedback loop hasn't been closed yet. Traumatic events are the origin stories for every bad thing you believe about yourself. Most easily felt as the difference between what we think is true about ourselves and what our emotions believe to be true, right? So if somebody says, you're amazing at blah, 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 and you know that that is actually something that you're good at, but you still don't feel like you are, that would be a negative belief or negative cognition stuck in that open state. So it's the difference between what you know to be true and what you believe to be true. And so the work of trauma therapy is all about closing that loop and bringing back what you believe to be true is also what you know to be true logically. So think about it like emotion brain versus logic brain. So as I said, your nervous system scans for danger, evaluating, safety, life threat, all of those things 4 times a second. And it integrates cues from facial expressions, tone of voice, body posture, environment, and internal sensations. That's called interoception. Can you sense your body and the things going on with your body? And do they make sense to you, right? So if you grew up in a traumatizing home or a high control environment, for example, you might have a stomach ache and be like, I don't know, am I getting sick? Am I nervous? You don't know what that means, right? So you've got to integrate the body with the knowledge and the feelings as well. So I'm going to give us another little example here. And this is what happens in circle. So let's bring it back to magic now. Witchcraft. So this is one way of looking at the human system, okay? So everybody is born, whether they believe it or not, whether Christianity has told you this or not, or Catholicism or what have you, you are born whole and complete. You are not broken. There is nothing wrong with you from birth, okay? That is what we call the self. That is your core self. In internal family systems, we may call it an inner wise one, the inner witch, the inner goddess, whatever you prefer to call it. It doesn't really matter. Various cultures call it different things. It's the soul, the God seed. There's a lot of different names for it, but it's that core part of who you are on the inside. This is how, when someone is self-led, they show up in circle or show up to do witchcraft. So that would look like behaviors of choosing community slowly from discernment rather than longing. I don't have to decide tonight whether this is my people. I can just be here and notice. That's how a non-traumatized person would enter into a circle environment, for example. You might be moved by the ritual without being swept away by it. I can feel all of this and I still know who I am, right? So a lot of times when you've had trauma, you actually don't have a sense of self that you have been able to really grasp onto. And so, you know, you'll hear people talking about just getting really sucked into the emotions. That's usually rooted in porous emotional boundaries due to trauma and things like that. But there still should be, we can feel a lot of feelings and empathy and compassion, and mirror neurons teach us that, but we can also still remain who we are. I'm still me, you're still you, and we're sharing this space together. So when we're born whole and complete, but shit happens like it always does, right? Something happens, mama doesn't come quick enough with the bottle, or whatever the case may be, that's going to be felt potentially as a traumatic experience within the body of a baby. And so we develop strategies, and these strategies are designed to help us manage those feelings. So let's say we're the toddler who got told, quit your crying or I'll give you something to cry about. And what we learned from that was that I can't trust anybody in this world, right? Now that feeling might be shame, concern, worry. And so we shove them down into the bottom right here. And this, we exile those feelings away because they're intolerable for us. And we shove them down into Pandora's box of feelings we don't want to feel. Anybody know that? I know that. Okay, so we shove them down, and you might hear people talking from that space with a, I've always wanted to belong somewhere like this. I didn't think it was allowed. They might collapse into devotion toward a charismatic leader. They might feel deep grief that gets activated in ritual, and this is kind of that person that's really like falling apart in circle or things like that. So because these feelings are they're rooted in like shame, grief, isolation, disconnection, which all encodes in our evolutionarily developed nervous system as imminent death, that is pretty scary to live with all the time, right? And so we develop strategies. So think about like we've got this volcano of these feelings down here that are constantly trying to open, right? So here in the center, we have what's basically a mountain. And on one side, we have proactive coping strategies that are designed to prevent anything from ever happening again to trigger those exiled feelings. And those are going to be behaviors like striving and perfectionism and anxiety and things like that. Hustle culture is very rooted in never again, right? And IFS calls those managers. And so those managers, when they show up in circle or in coven work, things like that, are going to look like hypervigilance toward group dynamics and leader approval. It might look like performing the ideal witch, the witchiest witch that ever witched, right? If I'm impressive enough, no one will see how lost I actually feel. Rigid adherence to rules, lineage, or the correct way. I'm a Gardnerian. I know all about that. If I do this exactly right, then nothing bad can happen again. If I'm perfect enough, nothing bad will ever happen again. But it cannot do that 100% of the time. So we have reactive strategies, which you see over here on the left. And their job, they're firefighters, their job is at any cost. This will never happen again at any cost. It doesn't care about your life, your mortgage, your job, your family, at any cost. And that is where addiction and suicidality and eating disorders live, kind of on that side. The way that shows up in circle might be like checking out or dissociating during ritual. I want to make one quick note about dissociation because a lot of our practices are a little dissociative, right? Kind of check out a little bit. That's kind of it feels good. We like doing that. It's a good thing. However, the difference is about choice. So I can check out, I can dissociate during circle in connection with my God and goddess, right? But I'm still here. I'm still present. Like I'm not like out of control. I'm not obliterated out into the universe. So I'm still present, and if I wanted to come right back, I could do that. Dissociation that is maladaptive and unhealthy in our space is really more around, oh, I can't wake up, right? Or like I need others to take care of me while I'm dissociated because I'm so checked out. That would be a cause for concern. That's going to look like spiritual bypassing. That would be retreating into love and light in order to avoid feelings. So one thing to know is we do love and light. I mean, I like it. However, what you may notice is that this is somebody who anytime somebody's like, oh, I wish something had happened, or you're sad about blah, 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 they're like, oh, no, good vibes only, right? Those kind of people. Hence why I own a shirt right now called Bad Vibes Only with black cats on it, but that's me. It might look like raging at perceived betrayal or exclusion in circle. So, they might be like, only these people are allowed or whatever, right? So The other thing you might notice is, you know, the belief or kind of statements like, if I stay positive enough, I know I won't have to feel what is inside me. And that would be your spiritual bypassing piece. Okay, I'm going to pause here and see if there's any questions. I just threw a whole lot of like neuroscience at y'all. Yes. It will be available. Yes, at the at the beginning, I said all of this will be available. There's a QR code at the end. You can just click when you fill out the survey. It will get sent to you. Okay. So one of the things I want to talk about is when you're experiencing or seeking to join a pagan group, witchy group, coven, what have you. Let me move forward in my notes. We want to know kind of what is actually being asked of folks when you're going into those spaces, right? So what is the lay of the land in each of those spaces? Because it's different depending on structure of coven or tradition or what have you, people. So every spiritual place, whether it names it or not, has expectations about how you show up. The question isn't whether they exist, it's whether they're clear, consensual, and supported. And I want to make one quick statement about consent, and that is that if you cannot give free and clear informed consent, while there is also the threat of retribution. And retribution just might be, I'm going to yell at you, or I don't like you anymore, right? That's enough retribution. That doesn't mean we're boundaryless. That doesn't mean like, if you can't hang in circle that you're going to come back to this circle. That may not be the case, right? But that's not retribution. That is like, I'm so sorry, this isn't going to work out. That's just a clear boundary, and we all get to decide those kinds of things. If you were to be like, I can't believe you da-da-da-da-da, and you're an idiot or whatever, then that would be retribution. So I wanted to make that distinction. So none of the places that we're going into are inherently harmful. So just know that. But we may be going into spaces that require altered states, physical presence, emotional openness on demand, energetic contribution. I mean, you may be clothed or not clothed. So that's how a lot of how circles run. You might be requested to trust the group, trust in the group cohesion. Some of those spaces, which would be harmful, are going to require rapid trust, loyalty over discernment, deference to leadership, and harmony over honesty. That would be an unhealthy space to enter into. So instead, what we can do is we can say things like, where can I jump out? What does this look like as we want to jump out? Your presence may be asked to raise and not disrupt the group field, right? So when we're all together, we're in what's called a relational field from a neuroscience perspective. When you're in that space, everybody's mirror neurons are feeding off of everybody else's. So if everyone can stay regulated and agree with that, that's part of the trust and perfect love and trust. You're going to keep your shit together, and you're not going to require everybody else to come save you energetically or emotionally, that you can kind of hang, right? You may be asked to have shared belief and meaning making, so shared cosmology, acceptance of ritual meaning, limited questioning. So I would be concerned if somebody was limiting questioning. You should always question, right? Now, if you're assurance seeking, repeatedly asking the same question, that's a little bit different. You should ask, what is the cosmology that y'all are believing in, or wanting to join into, things like that. Those are all things that you can ask, and if they have an issue with you asking those questions, then run, basically. Don't stay in there. They may have energetic norms, behavioral norms. Again, you can always ask what those might be expected of you. So like I said, none of these questions or none of these behaviors are necessarily harmful as long as they're consensual and explicitly stated. I'm going to have in this, when you fill out the survey, you're automatically going to be sent a full 3-page document that goes into all of these kinds of things. If you don't remember, it's okay. And you'll get the slides as well. But in that questionnaire, there is like a large section for leaders to kind of be asking themselves, or are we doing that? Or are we, how are we establishing safety and things like that? And then there's also one for seekers, so that you can kind of know what questions to ask when joining a group or a coven or what have you. Okay, so now let's get to the fun stuff, which is what actually is. Now we have a basic understanding of trauma and how it works and how it shows up. What actually is trauma-informed witchcraft? And so we have basically 5 pillars that I developed. The first one is safety before spell work. And that is specifically about grounding and consent precede invocation. Does everybody know what's going on before we start raising energy or calling in the gods? Circle casting begins with nervous system regulation. So that's breath, sound, touch. You may hum together or rock together or do something that brings you all in alignment with each other's nervous system. You can raise, well, you can't raise energy that you don't feel safe to hold, right? So if you're not feeling safe in that space, your magic is going to work less, because you're not going to have the same freedom and expansiveness in your nervous system to really feel comfortable raising it up. Pillar number 2 is embodiment as devotion. So the work of witchcraft is about re-inhabiting our bodies as the first temple. So really think about that. How do you feel being in your body? I can tell you that as a trauma therapist, I don't even know of a single client I've ever had that loves going inward. They deeply dislike it, actually. And it's very difficult to be like, no, I actually need you to like go inside. They're like, why would I want to be there? That's an ugly place. So just know that if you're having some issues with that, that might be what's going on for you. If you were taught as a child that going inside, that is an area of original sin, why would you want to go there, right? Okay. I like to think of it as my body is worthy of magic. And as someone with 5 autoimmune conditions, I still got to remember that every day. So thinking about perfect love as self-compassion. What if you walked into circle absolutely in perfect love with your God, or your goddess and yourself? So that no matter what happens in circle or with anybody else, you're going to honor yourself and honor your boundaries and what you need. So we can redefine love as a non-judgmental internal witnessing, not boundaryless openness. So this isn't like you're going to do whatever I say because we're all here together. There's not implied permission of somebody touching you, for example. Still got to ask. Bless you. Number 4, we have perfect trust as nervous system regulation. So that trust is the capacity to stay present with uncertainty. And there are some, we work in the mysteries, y'all, right? There are some things you're just not going to know. Do you have the ability within yourself and your nervous system to stay present with that? It's not going to get all the answers sometimes. Is that okay with you? Trust is in the body, it's in the nervous system, and it's in the circle, and it is built, but it is not demanded. So if somebody is demanding loyalty from you, run. That's another run situation. And then number 5 would be circle as a co-regulating nervous system. So what does that mean? When humans are together, when we're in conjunction with each other, close to each other, we have mirror neurons that are constantly like pinging out like sonar, like, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you safe? All the time. We can, when we're in circle together, create our own type of nervous system that is joint. And in fact, I actually did some studying about this the other day, where long-term married couples actually have, when there's enough safety and enough trust and time, their nervous system will actually entrain to each other, which means match each other, including their cortisol levels. And I say this, my husband of almost 26 years is sitting here in this room, so he knows all about it. So when one nervous system regulates, the others want to follow. That's what herd mentality is. We actually want to do this with each other. This is the actual mechanism of group magic. So just know that a coven is an ecosystem of various parts of us and each other seeking balance, not perfection. All right. Is there any questions? So we're going to do a meditation, but I want to pause here for a few minutes and check in and see how everybody's feeling and if there's any questions. Yeah. So a lot of covens are like, we enter the circle in perfect love and perfect trust. And so it's kind of a catchphrase used in a lot of magic circles and work. And so when we think about even that word, perfect or love or trust, like those could be really triggering for some of us, certainly for me. So, sometimes that can be given in that love and light bypassing way of like, oh no, you must be in perfect love and trust to be here with us, right? What does that mean? Each of us has a different definition of what the word perfect means, or trust, or love. Like, trust means something different to every single one of us, what it looks like, what our experiences of trust are in our lives, things like that. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah. Anything? Yeah. You go to therapy. Check, right? So, yeah. So from a neuroscience perspective, what I will say is that the thing that needs to happen is something called memory reconsolidation. But basically, you want to find what is that core fear and feeling of like, there's a negative belief in there somewhere, right? And we want to find the origin story of that negative belief. That's what EMDR is looking at and IFS is looking for. SE is as well, just in a somatic experiencing, just in a little bit different way. So it's about finding that origin story of where that belief was installed because you weren't born believing that, right? And so finding that is how you resolve it. But you can resolve it from it's a neuroplasticity, helps you resolve those things. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm at the point where I have found it with my therapist. Yeah. So I would say EMDR or IFS. Yep, EMDR or IFS is if you've been doing talk therapy. So that's what's something, just kind of as a side note. If you have been doing talking therapy, like you and your therapist are just talking through the whole time, that is not enough for trauma recovery necessarily. It might help, you'll feel better, right? But if you want to heal it, get rid of it, whatever that negative belief is, you're going to need something that's actually working with your body and your nervous system. So in EMDR, we have like equipment we use, tappers and things like that. The other thing I would say for your case specifically is you may not have found the original. In fact, often if something is still activated, there's more there. Yeah, so which usually is the case. Anything else? Yeah. Mm. Mm-hmm. Yes, I love this question. So you asked about 5, but I'll try to get to it. No, that's okay. That's okay. I'll try to keep track of it all. So you do not have to like go get EMDR therapy before you go into circle or do magic with other people. Really, it's more about if you could start with just building awareness. What am I feeling right now? Can you connect? So we think of our brain in like the triune brain. It's 3 parts of our brain. You've got emotion brain, logic brain, and animal brain, right? That's part goes your amygdala, goes down into your body. So when you're most folks, in fact, I would say most people that live in this country, we have been taught to externalize. I call it external governance. So we're told what you need to meet your needs is out here, and you don't have the ability to meet your own needs. Not everybody believes that, right? But this, for some, this is what they learned growing up in their life. But the reality is that we can bring those 3 together. And when somebody is intentionally seeking external support in that way, we'd want to have a conversation, right? Because they're not going to be responsible for their own emotions or energy that they're bringing into circle. And so energetically, that's not great. So I think whatever group you're thinking about joining or whatever, having a conversation with, how do you keep people safe here? What happens if somebody gets dysregulated? How do I ditch out? How do I exit and keep my shit together, right? And so everyone has a different way of doing that and different things that come up. I don't think you have to do one before the other. I was initiated as a Gardnerian before I went through a decade of therapy, right? So, and then became a therapist. So like anybody can do it at any time. It's more about accountability for yourself. If somebody is coming in and they're leaking their energy everywhere, and you know the type, they're just like energy here, energy there, right? That is not somebody I would ever circle with, because I'm like, I don't know, what are you going to do when, the incense is going and the candles are going and we're in it, right? I can't trust that other person is going to be able to handle and manage themselves without harming me emotionally. Does that make sense? Yeah. Give me 1 second, actually. Did I answer your question? Okay, great. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. 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 So one thing to know about like those kinds of scenarios, this is where I like to draw into polyvagal theory, because actually a lot of that kind of trauma comes from socialization. In fact, in the studies with polyvagal theory, what they found is that only socialized animals have PTSD. If you're a rabbit, ultimate prey animal, right? Ultimate prey animal. And the tiger's coming at you, wants to eat you. What do? You run, right? Your body gets flooded. All mammals have the same nervous system, same hormone system. You run, you get away as far as you can, and you vibrate and shake, right? So they're getting all the adrenaline and cortisol and all that good stuff working it out of their body. Humans, your boss gives you a little bit of feedback, and instead of saying, fuck you, and running away, punching them in the face, running out the door, we say, thank you for your feedback. Because that is not a great thing to be doing, right? So in that moment, what I would highly recommend, your boss is giving you feedback, you say thank you for your feedback, go into another room, and there's actually a couple of things you can do. One is you can take your right hand, over here, take your right hand, put it under your right by your heart, take your left hand, wrap it around yourself, squeeze as tight as you can. That resets your vagus nerve. You can splash ice cold water on your face if you have access to that. I personally always have like rocks, like some sort of obsidian or hematite or what have you, all over my office. Actually, yeah, there you go. All over my office, everywhere. So I will often use that or something cold and heavy. You can also throw ice. Now we actually used to use this in inpatient eating disorder world. You hold ice so the cold will reset your vagus nerve as well. And then the throwing it will give your body the physical reaction that it actually wants. And it won't hurt anything. It's just going to water the grass, right? So that's kind of some things you can do. Is that helpful? Great. Okay. So before we get too much further, we're going to enter into a little activity, and I want each of you to get comfy. And we've named a lot of things today. We've talked about a lot of things today. So now I'm going to get you to invite a part of you that might be struggling with witchcraft. Okay. So I'm just going to have y'all, you can lay down on the ground if you want to. Oh, yeah. Get comfy. Oh, no. Lay down, take your shoes off, get comfy. Okay. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to have you take a moment to just settle into your body wherever you are, whatever feels good for you. For this moment, you do not have to do anything. You don't have to go anywhere. No expectations to meet. Nothing to perform. Just let yourself breathe. Let your breath rise and fall. Let your shoulders soften. Relax your jaw. Unclench your hands. And as you breathe, you might notice that there are thoughts or feelings arising. Parts of you might feel curious or hopeful, happy to be here with other witches. Other parts might feel concerned or suspicious about what we're about to explore. Some might be worried about doing this wrong or being judged. And those parts of us are really important. They protect us and keep us safe. We are glad that they are here. And you can reassure those parts that we are not going to do anything unsafe, scary, or dangerous today. So now I'd like you to invite those parts, as they're willing, to step back just a little bit. Give us some space to explore while they continue keeping watch in the background. So if it feels right, just to let yourself arrive a little more fully into this present moment, into this breath, into this body that is safe right now. Now let your awareness turn inward, as if you're stepping across a threshold into an inner space that belongs only to you. And from this quieter place inside, let your awareness drift toward the thing that brought you here today, to this room, to this community. There is something in you that reaches toward this world, something that recognizes itself in circle, in shared practice, in the company of others who speak a similar language of spirit. Before you stands your dream of witchcraft, not someone else's vision, not someone else's rules, just the place your spirit leans toward, longs for. Whether it's a sense of circle, of coven, or of spiritual belonging. Whatever comes to mind is just right. Whether it's a circle in the woods, candlelight and whispered words, shared laughter, ritual, rhythm, connection, or something harder to name, just a feeling of being welcomed home, recognized. Now let yourself step into that scene just for a moment and notice what feels good there. Notice what draws you in and what part of you has longed for this. And as you stand at the edge of this space, you may begin to notice that not all of you moves forward. There may be something subtle or strong, a flicker of hesitation, a tightening, a questioning, a watchfulness, a quiet, I don't know, or I'm not sure. If nothing comes, that's okay too. As you turn your awareness toward this part of you, notice how you feel toward it, toward this hesitation, this voice that does not immediately say yes. You might notice a little impatience or frustration or curiosity or distance, protectiveness, or nothing at all. Whatever you notice is just fine. But if you do find that something in you wants to push this hesitation away, silence it, or move past it, let's ask that part to perhaps step back just a little bit so we can have some space. It can stay nearby, keeping watch, while you step forward from somewhere else. Take a breath and see if you can find, even faintly, a place inside that feels a little calmer, a little more curious than reactive. Not perfectly steady, just steadier. This is what we might call yourself, your most centered awareness. The part of you that can be with other parts without becoming them. It doesn't have to be loud or confident right now, just present, just here. From that place, turn your attention back toward the part of you that does not fully trust this threshold. And notice where you feel it in your body. Is it in your chest, your stomach, your throat, somewhere else? Just let your awareness gently rest there. And as you focus on it, see if you can get a sense of what it wants you to know. From that curious, calm place inside, you might quietly ask, what are you carrying? What has made you careful? And just listen. Whatever comes or doesn't is just fine and okay. Whatever this part offered you, even if it was only a sensation, a flicker, a wordless knowing, let it land. Let yourself actually receive what it shared. You don't have to fix anything yet. You don't have to move anywhere. Just let this part feel that you heard it. You might say inside, or simply sense toward it, I hear you. I'm not going anywhere. And when it feels right, you might ask, what are you afraid would happen if I stepped fully into this? Let the answer come in words, images, sensations, or a simple knowing. And as you listen, you may begin to sense this part is not here to stop you from belonging. It is here to protect you from what it believes belonging might cost. From something it remembers or something it believes could happen, being rejected, exposed, too much, not enough, hurt, judged, excluded. Let it know, I see you, I understand. And as you listen, you may begin to sense this part is not here to stop you. As you hear what this part has been carrying, ask it gently if there is anything it needs from you. Not to be fixed or sent away, but just to feel a little less alone with this, to feel a little lighter. Does this part know how old you are now? Does it know what you know? What you've survived? What you've built? Does it know you are here and that you are not the person who was hurt before? Spend some time with this part, hearing whatever it offers and letting it know you have heard it and that you are not going to leave it behind. As you listen to this part of you, notice what else it might have to say. What reassurance might it need from you? What information might it need from you? Does it have questions? And even as that part still holds what it remembers, even as it still carries the weight of what belonging has cost before, let yourself also begin to sense something else becoming possible. Now turn once more toward that inner circle, that feeling, that place of belonging, of shared presence, of connection, and notice what feels different now, even slightly. Perhaps there is more space, more discernment, more breath. Maybe the image softens. Maybe it becomes more spacious. Maybe there's just a little more room to breathe. Perhaps the threshold feels less like a barrier and more like a choice. And see if you can imagine a circle that does not demand your trust, but earns it. And see if it feels possible to imagine a version of that place where both things are true. The part of you that longs to belong and the part of you that moves carefully are both welcome. Envision a space that does not require you to override yourself, but welcomes your awareness. A place where you can step forward and also step back with your whole self intact. A circle that does not require you to override yourself. A space where trust is built, not demanded. And now, begin to feel your body again. Your breath, your weight, the ground beneath you. Thank the parts of you that have shown themselves today for you, that showed up. We appreciate their presence and their wisdom. Notice the steady presence of the earth holding you without condition, without expectation. You do not have to prove your belonging here. You already belong. So now let your awareness widen just a little bit and take with you from this journey only what feels true, leaving anything else behind. And when you're ready, I want you to scrunch your shoulders and wiggle your toes and back into the body, into this moment, and into this space. Just take a minute to kind of wake back up a little bit. All right, how's everybody feeling, okay? Good. So we have a little bit of time for questions, comments, discussions. Here is the QR code. This is our therapy practice, if you're interested. The YouTube channel. So when you follow the QR code, it's going to take you to a Google form, and there will be a couple free downloadables actually. One is the guide, the 3-page guide that we talked about a minute ago. The other is the presentation slides. So all of them, we skipped a couple for time purposes, but all of those will be included for you. And I'll be opening a Wicca 101 class later on this year. So if you are interested in that, you can also check that on the Google form and be kept up with the goings on and things that we're doing. I'm doing, you know, blending therapy and witchcraft, basically. Yeah. Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns, wonderings, curiosities? Yeah.
So specifically when you're doing deity work, I was wondering, how can you kind of discern whether your practices are coming from fear of like, if I don't do things right, then something bad will happen, or like, because when you're coming from a place of Christianity, that is very much what you're taught, versus when it's coming from a place of genuine devotion.
So if it's genuine devotion, there will not be fear. It will only feel good. It won't increase anxiety. It won't increase worry. It won't do anything like that. So if you are in a good place and doing, but your system feels, you won't have bodily sensations or like, why do I have a headache or what have you? You won't be crying afterwards or, you know, things like that. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. If you have very like rote, repetitive things that you do in your rituals for your deities, is it a bad sign if you have anxiety when you don't do them?
I would be talking to somebody about that probably. Yeah, because I don't know you, right? But yeah, so if you're getting into like perfectionism of if I don't do this exactly this way and this, you know, I mean, Mike Kevin and I make mistakes in circle all the time. We're like, oh, forgot that, and we laugh. We go back and do it, right? Like, I mean, so like that would be a healthy way to go about it. Whereas, say somebody is like, here's the order of operations, and I got off track. Oh, forget it. The whole circle's ruined, right? That would be like something that's indicating something a little deeper needs to be kind of looked at or worked on.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, I think you had a question.
So for somebody who's just starting to look for spaces, I'm understanding how to feel where I'm in and all that, but where do you, as a person, start? Like,
Where's a place to go find people? Like meet the people?
I mean,
Right, right. So I would say any, like locally in person, any of the occult shops, like Silver Moon Curios is one in Georgetown, but they have a huge, I know Candy very well, they have a huge community that they're building. And like that is what her mission really is about getting together and all kinds of things as a community. Well, they're here, so that makes sense. She's amazing. She's wonderful, and you will never get pressure from her whatsoever. And so beyond that, I would be looking at like Mandragora Magica is a website for local, well, they're all over, but they have several local Central Texas all over, but Central. No, probably not. Mandragora, Mandra. There you go, Magica. And I think it's Magica, like Magika. Yeah, I think. But I know there are lots and lots of very well-known witches in this room. So please, anybody that knows of any other resources, feel free to kind of just shout them out so we can all learn. So those would be the two places that, oh, so sorry, yeah. Mm-hmm.
How do you feeling that weight of like, I guess if you're pressuring like it's a lot to separate from
Yeah.
the group, like, oh, did I do something wrong?
Totally, right? And because we're told that's rude. That's a rude thing to do. So again, that would be, in fact, by my definition of trauma, that would be you had an experience that was like, or younger, right, years ago, that was like, if you walk out, you're rude, right? If you leave when you arrive, you're rude, or you leave early, you're rude. So the first and foremost is actually having those kinds of conversations before you're there, right? And so when you're working with someone or seeking to work with someone, you know, in those like early conversations, you can be like, yeah, so what happens if like something's coming up for me and I need to like, how do you, and you'll really like the questions that you'll get in that downloadable because it's all about that. How do they handle it when someone needs to peace out, right? What are they thinking about? Like if somebody gets dysregulated, how do they handle food allergies, for example? I know I have food allergies and I'm going to ask, right? Things like that. So you can ask ahead of time before you're in the situation, right? Don't get into circle and then be like, oh, okay, hey, I'm not okay with what they're doing here. And then be like, I gotta go. Like don't make it weird, right? Just like ask ahead of time. Like, how do you handle it when people are having some feelings and they need to go? Yeah. Does that answer the question? Okay. Anybody else? Yeah.
How much, when it comes to witchcraft practice, how much time
Are you an LCSW? I was like, yeah, okay, this is like somebody is like, that's a really specific question. So how do I navigate the two? Well, so the meditation we just did was like pure IFS. So I don't know if many of you kind of grasped that, but that was like straight up IFS. So the way that I personally handle it is, you know, so in the code of ethics, right, our religion, our faith stays out of it. And in fact, I'm writing some spicy stuff right now because I'm like, well, if we're okay with Christian therapists, why can't we be okay with pagan therapists? Just saying. So I take that cue from my clients. So if they're like, I'm here to work on, I'm working with somebody who is deeply, deeply faithful as a Christian, but he's not like, and this is what we're doing in therapy because, I'm a Christian. And if he was, I'd be like, great, I'm going to have to refer you out. So, because that's not what I do. But typically I am very compartmentalized, I guess is the right word for it, as a therapist. So like I'm not walking into my space going, hey, I'm a Gardnerian, or making sounds like that. I might have kids that I work with that make sounds like that though. And so personally, that's how I do it. Now, if clients, like I have like shadow work cards, and like various other, they're there, right? But they're just very like kind of spread out. So stones are there, rocks are there, all kinds of things. And I don't offer it to clients or not. I'm like, oh, play with whatever you want, right? It's all open. This is your space to explore whatever you want to explore. So that's kind of how I handle it. Did I get all the question about it? I'm trying to think if I'm missing a piece. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. So I still wouldn't introduce anything, right? I would be listening. How are they talking? And I'm using the client's language. Does that make sense? And I mean, that's what I do with Christian clients too. Who like, that's just part of their vernacular is like, and God bless, blah, 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 right? And I'm like, I'm so glad you found that helpful or what have you, right? I'm using the client's language. So, I mean, I don't have a single client that knows I'm a Gardnerian. I have a few that know I practice Wicca or, something like that and that level, but I'm keeping the disclosure of the details real tight. If they're kind of bringing it into the room, I'll talk about whatever it is they're bringing in the room, but I'm not introducing hey, you should go read this book or buy this tarot deck, right? That's not happening. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah, you bet. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Really? Oh man, I have tons of smoky quartz. Huh? Okay, lots of rhodonite, actually. It's very, very good for trauma healing. Rhodonite, I would say black tourmaline, and moonstone, rose quartz, things like that. But I mean, I have a lot of citrine, all kinds of stuff all over. Got carnelian. Yeah. I personally, though, in my I got to fidget. I can't sit all day. I got to fidget, right? And so I personally hold a very, very dark, smoky quartz in my hand to fidget with and have it absorb some of the energy. The other thing that I do, though, is also very much use the earth as a grounding. So like when I have like a really hard day, really hard clients, I'll lay on the floor and just be like, take it, shut my door. I'm like, take it, Mother Earth, because it's a lot, especially, right now. Yeah, anything else? Hey.
wildly crazy, but it was just my therapist never. That's what I was doing now when I was.
Yeah, I am not taking clients. I'm actually going to go on a sabbatical being a trauma therapist over the last 6 years through the pandemic, where I had nothing but doctors, nurses, and teachers on my caseload, and then a fascist takeover. I'm a little tapped out. But I have we have 9 of us at our, so I have a group practice, and I have clinicians there that you could see that are they're all great and woo-woo, and they're like, well, let's do it, kind of a thing. So the other thing you might, and I'm speaking kind of as someone who has also done EMDR therapy, if you've done a lot of EMDR therapy, you might really benefit from an IFS therapist specifically. There are actually lots of them here in Austin, but Sally Engel she is a Hermetic witch. She's in Spicewood, and she owns a Windhorse, I'm saying it wrong, Windhorse Ranch. And she does retreats out there. She does individual therapy out there, but she is a Hermetic witch who is also an IFS certified, like she's way higher than me in IFS specifically. So I will say, though, that these types of specialties are not cheap, and they usually don't take insurance because it's very expensive to get those levels. So but that would be what I would look for. It is becoming a lot more of us are coming out because, like, I'm sure we're like, you're not allowed to do that. Like, I had so much anxiety last night coming to do this because I was like, oh my God, I am like blending two things that should never blend. And also that's just something we were taught, and it's not true. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. All right. Yes. That's so exciting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
What was the name of the practice?
It's unbrokenabundance.com. Yeah, you bet. It's there you go. I put it back up. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you see clients virtually as long as they're like within the state?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't personally, but because I'm taking a sabbatical. It's so hard. I know. It's like I feel so bad about it, but yeah. 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 Anything else? All right, y'all. Thank you so much for coming.